Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. You're watching our build up to the India versus England Test series. We're billing it here as the big grudge series from the Indian standpoint. Of course, all Indian cricket fans, as the team as well, I'm sure they want revenge for what happened last year during the English summer when the Indians were humiliated 4-0. Brownwash is the term being branded about right now. What will happen in this 4-test match series? It's going to be a massive one for India. It's going to be massive for some of the Indian stalwarts. Sachin Tendulkar, Virendra Sehwag, Gautam Gambhir, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Zaheer Khan. All of them have a lot to prove in this particular series, and we're going to have an absolutely cracker of a show lined up for you over the next 1 hour. We've got Nikhil Chopra, former Indian off-spinner. He's in our studios right now. We'll also be joined by former Indian captain Sourav Ganguly from Ahmedabad, the venue of the first test match. And we'll have a very special guest along with Sourav Ganguly as well as we build up to the first test match. And that special someone is former England captain, former England opener Geoffrey Boycott, who has a very keen interest in what happens between India and England. But let me start off with Nikhil straight off the bat. Nikhil, how excited are you? India versus England. It doesn't really get bigger than this.
No, not at all. And especially with the kind of cricket that England played in the summer when we were dropping 4-0. It's been termed as the Vengeance series. And hopefully Team India can go out there, on our tracks, go out there and hopefully win the series comfortably. The ideal scenario would be 4-0. So you're getting that vengeance back, but it's going to be a tough one. The reason? You've got some quality spinners in the England ranks also.
The grudge series, that's how we're building it up here on Headlines today. And of course, all the talk is about how India wants to redeem their pride. They want redemption from this test series against England. A lot of talk already about whether we can brownwash the English, whether we can repay them back in the same coin as how they devastated us when we were the #1 side, when we went to England in 2011. 4-0 is how we lost. Is 4-0 a realistic outcome that we can expect in this series?
To be honest, yes. And I say that, but there's a big question mark. Hopefully Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Team India can get the kind of tracks that they've been asking for. Don't forget, when we were in England, we played on some seaming tracks, taking advantage of the home conditions for England. What suited them, the tracks were built according to their home advantage. Hopefully in India, for Mahendra Singh Dhoni and for the Indian team, we can get tracks that are conducive to spin bowling, because that's our strength. Batting and spin bowling at this moment in time, with the kind of form that Ashwin as well as Pragyan Ojha have been in. If it starts turning from, say, later half day 1 and goes on to the test match, I think we've got a very realistic chance of winning the series 4-0.
But, Nikhil, when you talk about the spin factor and how important that's really going to be, the English with Graham Swan, are just as potent, some would say. Swan is that typical orthodox off-spinner. Ashwin, not your typical off-spinner, as you very well know. Would you say that the Indian pitches, the Indian conditions would favor the Indian spinners more, or do you think Swan can come into his own against the Indians?
I think Swan can come into his own. The reason why? Because of the kind of delivery that he's got and the release that he's got with the number of revolutions on that cricket ball when it's released from his fingers. I think he'll be able to extract that extra little bit of bounce like some of the Indian spinners. And don't forget, the key here is going to be the SG Test cricket ball, because it's got a much more prominent seam in comparison to the Kookaburra where you're used to playing around the world. So I'm sure the English spinners, and especially Graham Swan, would enjoy bowling with that cricket ball. But the key difference, they've had a couple of practice games. To me, Graham Swan's success is going to decipher what length he bowls on. I keep saying this, whenever any overseas quality spinners come to India, they tend to struggle, Gaurav, because the difference is the length that you hit. People like Shane Warne, world-beating stars who've come to India and have not done very well. It's the length that you hit, and on every single day, because as the test match progresses, the tracks tend to slow down. It's a different length you're bowling. It's a different kind of speed that you have to bowl to, and I think the Indian spinners there might just have the edge.
All right, but I guess one factor we need to keep in mind as far as the factor of the spin is concerned is the fact that when Shane Warne came here, some of our big hitters, our heavy hitters, the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Virendra Sehwag, Gautam Gambhir, were at the top of their game at that point in time. That's not the case as England come here for this very, very crucial series. Nikhil, there's a lot of pressure on the Indian stalwarts, the Indian seniors. You've got the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, you've got Gautam Gambhir, Virendra Sehwag, the two openers. Mahendra Singh Dhoni hasn't done all that well of late either. A lot of question marks over, Dhoni in the fact that he lost 8 test matches in a row overseas. And then you've got Zaheer Khan, who's, it almost seems to us, limping back to form.
Well, of course, it's going to be a crucial series for quite a few seniors. You know, you're absolutely right. When we played in England, then we played in Australia, we lost the series 4-0 in England. We lost the series 4-0 in Australia. There are only a couple of guys who've been in top-notch form. Virendra Sehwag has not been in the best of form in test matches for quite some time. Gautam Gambhir has not got 100 to his name for quite some time. Tendulkar, hopefully we get to see the best of him, the dominating Tendulkar. He's just come off 100 in the domestic scenario, so he'll be raring to go. So there's some big questions that are to be answered in this particular series, but I hope Team India can go out there and put their best foot forward. You're playing at home, these are conditions you're well used to, and every single member of the Indian team has gone out there, barring Mahendra Singh Dhoni. They've got a game under their belt in domestic cricket, and everybody's done well.
Nikhil, as far as the youngsters are concerned, we've been celebrating some of the youngsters in this Indian lineup, in this Indian setup, the likes of Virat Kohli, Cheteshwar Pujara, how they've done well. We've been talking about how promising the likes of Umesh Yadav, Ashwin are. Can these youngsters really hold their own against an experienced, well-drilled test side like England, who were very recently #1 in test cricket? And I say this because there's a lot of inexperience amongst the Indian ranks. 5 players amongst these youngsters who could possibly be in the playing 11 come the first test match haven't played a test match against England.
Well, Virat Kohli, we know that he's done well. He's done well in Australia, he's done well in difficult conditions. The way he batted against New Zealand, in that second test match, the second innings was absolutely outstanding. It just goes to show the kind of maturity the man's got. Cheteshwar Pujara, he's got all the right sort of ingredients for him to cement that position at #3. Comparison is not right with somebody like a Rahul Dravid, but he's got all the right ingredients, the right sort of technique to go out there and bat at #3. And UV's coming back, and with the kind of comeback dream story that he's had, come at the T20, the domestic double 100 he's got, he's picked up wickets against England, he's got a half centuries to his name. So everything's falling well for Team India. It's never easy when you've got a couple of senior guys, hanging up their boots, the youngsters coming to fill up their spots. They'll always be under a little bit of pressure, but everything's worked well for the youngsters. Everybody's amongst the runs. They played the 2 test matches against New Zealand. Mahendra Singh Dhoni won them. The spinners have done well. The batting, I feel, in these sort of conditions should not be a worrying sign until unless the ball starts reverse swinging and somebody bowls out of their skin. Otherwise, I think if everything goes, according to what Team India wants with that kind of track, I don't see any sort of problem.
All right, of course, this is just the start of the show. We're really going to be building up to this particular series, the first test match in Ahmedabad. We're going to be going live across to Ahmedabad very soon as well. We'll also be speaking to Saurav Ganguly and Jeffrey Boycott all the way live from Ahmedabad. They're going to be joining us with their thoughts as we build up to this absolutely fantastic series. Nikhil, as far as the English are concerned, who would you say are some of the big danger men? We've already discussed Graham Swan and how crucial he's going to be for England's chances. He's, of course, been distracted as well. And I've been reading some of the English papers, and they talk about how the English side currently not very settled. A lot of them are a little distracted with various different events off the field coming into this test series. You think the timing is right for India to start the series off with a bang?
Well, it's never easy for any overseas team to come to India and try and win a test match. I think it hasn't happened for quite some time. It was South Africa and Australia who, posed that threat to India in the recent times, but otherwise it's very difficult for any other side. England, each time they've come to India, they've struggled. As soon as the tracks start turning, I guess, there are quite a few questions that some of the English batsmen cannot answer to, but in terms of posing a threat, I think Cook, he's got some runs under his belt. Morgan is somebody who can do well, and of course Kevin Peterson in that middle order, he can hold that middle order together simply by just putting a lot of pressure on the Indian spinners, because if he goes after the Indian spinners, I think the spinners still, once they start going for a few runs, the length might change.
But Nikhil, we know about what these English players are capable of, the likes of KP, the likes of Bell, Swan. But my question was, they seem a little distracted right now. You know, Graham Swan, of course, with the illness of his daughter, newborn daughter, he was back in England, and of course, as far as Kevin Peterson is concerned, we all know the kind of episode he's recently had with the English dressing room, the English side, and you know, whether he can gel back and be assimilated seamlessly into the playing 11. So do you think mentally the English are fine? Because unlike the Indians, they've come here, they've been here for a long time, they shouldn't have any problems acclimatizing, but mentally, are they on track?
I don't think there should be any sort of problem, and I'll tell you that because A, they're all professional cricketers. Kevin Peterson's got that contract back in terms of whatever he wanted, he's been given. So, you know, the English, the Test and Cricket County Board of England would want to see Kevin Peterson go out there and put his best foot forward, because whatever he's asked for, he's been given. Graham Swan, I know he's coming back. Mentally, I think once he bowls that very first over, very first delivery, I think he'll switch on, because he's a quality bowler. So mentally, I'm sure these guys are going to be all there, but it's how they strategize and the execution of the strategy, how good is that going to be? That's going to be a big question that needs to be answered.
Alright, so talking about strategy, of course, that's going to be very, very crucial. What about the Indians and the kind of strategy they are going to go into this opening encounter with? Because the first match of a 4-test series is really used to set the tone for how the series is going to pan out. It's very important that the Indians set down an early marker against the English. So what about strategy, Nikhil Chopra? How would you look at this? You know, a lot of people saying spin is going to be our key component. We've of course spoken about that. 3 specialist spinners in this Indian lineup. We've got quite a few other batsmen who can bowl a bit as well and bowl effectively at that. Do you see Dhoni and the Indian think tank going in with 3 spinners possibly, given England's vulnerability? Or would you go in with a tried and trusted 2 pacers, 2 spinners and 7 batsmen?
I think it all depends on the track. If Mahendra Singh Dhoni wanted, you know, a track that spins from the very first day, and don't forget, you know, we saw him talk to some of the media people, says he hasn't seen a wicket where a batsman is going to play forward defensive and the ball, you know, turns and hits him on the chest from an off spinner. So if he tries to prepare a track like that, then I won't be surprised where he plays the 3 spinners. But if you see a track that's ideally prepared in India for test matches where it starts turning from say day 3, day 4, then I won't be surprised. Then you go in with the tried and tested composition where you've got the 2 medium pacers and the 2 spinners in Pragyan Ojha as well as Ashwin, and the 2 medium pacers to me would be, if they're fit, Umesh Yadav and of course Zaid Khan. So that would be your bowling combination. If it starts turning from day 1, or that's the kind of track you've got, it's very dry, I wouldn't be surprised you're playing the one left arm medium pacer in Zaid Khan, and you've got the 3 quality spinners in the 11.
But would those kind of instructions have gone out from the Indian management to the ground staff at Motera, at the Sardar Patel Gujarat Stadium in Ahmedabad, that look, we want a rank turner here, we want to put the English under pressure right from day 1 of this series? Because when we went to England, we know the kind of pitches we faced, and they were green, they were hostile, there was a lot of bounce, a lot of pace. So why not go in for a complete rank turner? Or maybe our batsmen might have a thing or two to say about that, given the fact that you've got Swan on the other side.
Well, that always happens. You know, we've seen that even in domestic cricket, where you ask, you know, your curator to prepare a seaming track, because as your team strength, you know, you've got quality medium pacers, and all of a sudden you go in the evening, you know, there's no grass on the wicket. You know, batsmen want the curators or the groundsmen to cut off the grass with a pair of scissors. You want an absolutely flat, placid batting track, but hopefully, that's why I keep saying, Mahendra Singh Dhoni will get the kind of track that he wants, and he should, because Team India, they're playing at home advantage. You've got to be playing according to your strength, and Team India's strengths are, of course, their batting and the spinners. And don't forget, you've got to look at the opposition's weaknesses also.
Nikhil, how much of an influence would Yuvraj Singh's form be coming into this first test match, and thinking about what he's done with the ball? Because at the World T20 he made a big impression largely with the ball. Even when he played for India A against against the visiting Englishmen in that warm-up match, it was with the ball that he really made a mark, picked up 5 wickets. How much of his performances be a contributing factor to the final playing 11, and whether India go in with 3 spinners or 2?
Well, you know, I think it's going to be enormous. We've seen Yuvraj Singh being groomed over a period of time with his left arm spin. Whether it's T20, we've seen he does a lot of bowling in the IPL also. He does a lot of bowling, even in for even in one-day internationals, where he gets to bowl 5, 6, 7 overs. So over a period of time, he's been grooming himself, and now in domestic cricket, where he picked up those 5 wickets against England, so at least he's been able to bowl consistently on that sort of line and length, and he's been able to pose a threat to the batsman. So in that regard, of course, you know, there's another variation that Mahendra Singh Dhoni can bring up to. But if you've got a track that you're preparing for that turns from day one, then of course you'd want to go in with 3 specialist spinners. Ashwin and Harvinder Singh, they're both off spinners, but completely different with the kind of deliveries they've got in their repertoire. Pragyan Ojha and Yuvraj Singh. Yuvraj Singh will come and probably, you know, give rest to his frontline spinners, but he won't bowl for more than, say, 6, 7 overs at a stretch. Whereas Pragyan Ojha, if he's going well, he'll bowl about 10 to 12 overs. You want to give your spinners a long run. So in that regard, you know, everything fits pretty well for Mahendra Singh Dhoni, because Yuvraj Singh's strength initially is his batting, and then somebody who can go out there, you know, bowl his 8, 10, 12 overs, even in test match cricket, or maybe a little more, and pick up a couple of wickets. That's what you want.
Alright, so as far as the Indians are concerned, the big selection dilemma really will be with the spinners, 3 or 2. As far as the paces are concerned, Zaheer Khan, if he's fit enough, because over the practice sessions that we've seen, he hasn't really bowled full tilt, but that could possibly be part of the strategy to keep him fresh and make sure that he doesn't break down, because historically we remember, Nikhil, in that test series against England, in England, he didn't even last 1 session.
Yeah, I hope not. You know, but you'd want Zaheer Khan, if he's playing, want him fit for the entire duration of the test match, whether he bowls 20 overs, whether he bowls 30 odd overs. You know, you want him fit, because he's an integral part. Don't forget, if you're playing with a combination of 2 spinners as well as the 2 medium pacers, and the ball starts reverse swinging, you would want Zaheer Khan to be fit, because he's the only one who can prepare that ball to reverse swing, and that advantage can be taken obviously with Umesh Yadav coming into the ranks. But God forbid he's in the 11, he gets injured, I think it's going to be a big blow, because don't forget, to win a test match you need to pick up 20 wickets.
20 wickets, and Zaheer Khan, of course, will be a very, very key component of this Indian bowling lineup, because not just all about spinners here on these tough Indian bowling pitches, it's also about using that old ball and getting that all-important reverse swing. And of course, we all know Zaheer Khan is an absolute master of that. Let's also talk a little bit about the batting as well, because there are quite a few concerns, Nikhil Chopra, as far as the batting is concerned, because your openers right at the top are not really firing. You've got Virender Sehwag, you've got Gautam Gambhir, 2 proven campaigners, 2 men who've gone out there, done it in the most difficult of conditions. But something over the last 12 months, 16 months has gone wrong with them.
Very quiet. I think that's where Team India has struggled also to get in the sort of victories that they wanted overseas, or at least pose a threat in overseas conditions against the opposition. You don't have a solid enough start. Your middle order gets exposed to a new ball when the ball was doing a little bit, then you're asking for trouble. You need a solid stand right at the stop. When Team India did well, when we were ranked the world's #1 side in test matches, you see the record. Virender Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir have given some fantastic starts, you know, incredible. That's where the opposition's been on the back foot, and the middle order has been able to go out there and exploit the opposition's weakness. So you want that solid start, and that's why we've been hurting. These guys have been quiet for fairly too long. I think Gautam hasn't got 100 in about more than 2 years.
40 innings.
And that's a lot.
In 40 innings, he hasn't scored 100. During that time, Nikhil, in those 40 innings, he scored only 434 runs. His highest has been 83, and he's got an average of 27.12. That's worse than some of the bowlers that we've got in this Indian lineup.
And that would hurt, and I'm sure that would hurt Gautam Gambhir, because he's one man, whether he's playing for his IPL franchisee, whether he's playing for Delhi, whether he's playing for a club side, and of course Team India. You know, whenever he goes out to bat, he wants to go out there, get big runs, get 100, get triple figures, and you know, his contribution should be towards a winning contribution.
Is it time then to drop him? Because the selectors you know, indicated towards that when they picked the squad for this first test match. You've got 2 specialist openers who are in the squad apart from Sehwag and Gambhir. You've got Murli Vijay, who's been tried a few times, who's scored runs by the bucket load in domestic cricket, and you've got Ajinkya Rahane, who stepped up to the plate when playing for India in the shorter format. And of course we know that he's got you know, an average of almost 60 in domestic cricket. So we know that in these conditions Ajinkya Rahane will get you runs most times out or not. So is it time then to say, you know, to the likes of Sehwag and Gambhir, look, You're proven performers. We know that. You have the test records and the performances to back you up. But right now, you're not in form. Take a back seat. Let's try some of the youngsters.
Well, if you go by the numbers, yes, to answer your question, but just looking at what they've done over the last so many years, you've got to give people.
How long do you keep looking at those?
That's the big question. How long, as a captain, would you give another opportunity to somebody like a Virender Sehwag, or for that matter, Gautam Gambhir?
Yeah.
How do they look in the nets? Viru got 100, but he got 100 batting at number 6 in the middle order, not opening the innings also.
That's right.
But if, as a captain, you are being given that sort of confidence when you look at them bat in the nets and for what they've done in the past and how they bat well together. It's the left and right combination. I'd say you give them another couple of goes in terms of the first 2 test matches. And of course, if these guys don't perform, Gaurav, you're playing for your country. Like how they came into the side, they'll have to make way for some of the other youngsters who've been doing well in domestic cricket. You've got to make way. There are no comfort levels or comfort zones.
Talking of comfort levels, comfort zones, there's also this whole, history that Mahendra Singh Dhoni has with Virender Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir. And these 2 Delhi openers haven't really helped themselves with their performances of late. Do you think, the fact that they don't really enjoy a great relationship with their captain could also be a contributory factor? And the fact that you've got 2 specialist openers within the squad, maybe you could see some chopping and changing.
I don't see the chopping changing happening in the first 2 test matches. Even if you don't have the best of relationships with the captain, which I don't think that's the case, but even it is. At the end of the day, you're not helping your cause in terms of Gautam Gambhir and Virender Sehwag. You don't get the runs, then of course, you'll have to make way for some of the other youngsters coming through the ranks. So you've got to go out there and put your best foot forward. When you're playing international cricket, you can't take your place for granted.
Alright, can't take your place for granted. And of course, as far as this particular series is concerned, the Indians don't want to take anything for granted because it's extremely important. It's the grudge series. Very soon, we're going to be going across to Ahmedabad as well. Saurav Ganguly and we'll also have Jeffrey Boycott joining us. We'll get their perspective. They've been at the ground. They're checking out what's really happening, how the teams have been practicing. We'll get you that perspective very, very shortly on the show. But for the time being, let's continue our conversation with Nikhil Chopra. Nikhil, looking at this particular series, we've spoken about the openers, the spinners, the pacers. As far as the Yuvraj Singh factor is concerned, that's going to be very, very important as well. We were all talking about whether he'll make the squad. He's made the squad. Initially we spoke about whether he'll come into the T20 team. He came into the T20 team, came into the playing 11, did really well, performed very well, got a man of the match award there as well. Now he's in the test squad. The question is, will he make it into the playing 11?
I think he will, because it doesn't make sense to get somebody like Yuvraj Singh in your 15 and not play him. He's a fantastic cricketer, we all know that, and he's got a proven record. You look at him bat, whether it's T20, whether it's limited overs format, even in test match cricket, how he's got the number of runs he has. I just feel that in test match cricket, he hasn't been treated fairly. When he went to Sri Lanka, when Suresh Raina got his position, he was injured. He got that 100 in tour game there. Then the first test match, he got a half century, he fell ill. Suresh Raina coming into the place, got 100, and UV never got a place back. So UV is there, and the way he's come back, he's worked really hard, and you could see, he's worked hard, and that's paid laurels to him. He's got that double 100 in domestic cricket. He's got that half century against England. He's picked up those 5 wickets as well. So, of course, he's got to be playing in the 11. Don't forget, he brings that solidarity and also the X factor. When you've got a Yuvraj Singh playing in the 11, it makes all the difference.
Alright, and of course there's also a big question mark hanging over Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar. He's going to be starting his 24th year in international cricket, Nikhil. Here's his barren run that we're looking at these graphics. What do you make of Sachin Tendulkar and how he's going to be doing?
Well, at the end of the day, he's been fairly quiet with his standards, the kind of standards that he set, and we all know him. When it comes to international cricket, 8 test matches, you see the bottommost column, that divides the hundreds into 50s. Very quiet, no 100. And that's a big thing, that Tendulkar has not been able to convert those starts that he always does, or he's famously known for. He's still the glue that binds that Indian middle order together. And look at those stats. You know, overall against England, he's got 28 test matches under his belt. He's got 2,423 test runs. Look at that average, 56.35. That has dipped in the last 8 test matches. Best has been 193. And that column that separates the hundreds and 50s, 700s to his name. That's been the key. And why did we struggle in England? Look at that. The 4 test matches when we were touring in England, 273 runs at an average of 34, best was 91, and still not a single 100 converted. Now that's been the problem. When you've got somebody like a Tendulkar who's not in the best of form, it just goes to show, you know, that some of the other guys in the middle order, especially the youngsters, find it a little difficult. The youngsters enjoy batting with Tendulkar because he knows a trick or two of getting a couple of hundreds, and also deciphering the strengths and weaknesses of a bowler. Sometimes the bowler doesn't know his own strengths. Tendulkar will be able to pinpoint that out and, you know, tell the youngster how they're trying to get you out. What is the strategy going around with the opposition? That's why a lot of youngsters enjoy batting with Tendulkar, but unfortunately he didn't have the best time in England, and that's why we struggled. And look at those 8 test matches, not a single 100. That to me in the middle order will be the key, because you've got a couple of youngsters that come and bat before Tendulkar and a couple of youngsters that come and bat after Tendulkar. That man on the screen will make all the difference.